Okay. Okay, inshallah. Everyone ready to start? Let's get started. I'll try to go till 12:15. I won't take too long. And if we spill over, I won't go over 12:30,
Okay,
inshallah.
inshallah. Everyone ready to start? Let's get started.
Whoops.
I'll try to go till.
Okay. Okay, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يقربنا إليك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We begin with the praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending blessings and peace on the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So last week um, we didn't quite get through this portion discussing what is Sunnism, right? So last week we discussed a very important idea, which was qat'i and dhanni, which was evidences in our deen which are definitive. So facts, evidences, beliefs which are absolutely definitive that if you believe or if you say something different, then you've gone outside the fold of Islam. And then there are things that are debated, dhanni, that can be debated on and that need evidences from either the Quran or the Sunnah to prove your point. Okay? So can I think we gave a funny example last time of how your father the idea that your father who your father is Zulani, right? So I was actually thinking um uh for a mother, okay, and this is a quiz for you guys, a test, right? So for a mother, her children, the fact that she's the mother of the children, is that qat'i or dhanni? Because I was thinking about this the other day.
I'm uh I'm glad you brought that up because it could be either.
Oh, okay. Give me
The,
a
the
case of each. Hmm.
okay. A case was like in my case with my first son.
Hmm.
Um, right after I had him, I think I blanked out, passed out. So
Oh, okay.
right.
I see. I
Whereas
see.
with the second son, as soon as I was in pain or whatever, and the nurse slapped me and said, "Look, this. Are you seeing him? And he has a birthmark on his right side." So I'm like,
MashaAllah.
okay. So that's usually yeah.
MashaAllah. Yeah, and that's actually really good. That's good you brought that up because it could be dhanni if you weren't actually conscious at all, right? Like you wouldn't know. I guess so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But for you, it would be definitive. Like you see, you gave birth. Like for your second son, you're saying, right? MashaAllah. May Allah bless him. So you gave birth. So you're experiencing it. So of course it's gonna be khata'i for you, right? But for let's say, like I don't know, your aunt. Okay. So let's say for your aunt, the fact that he's your son, would that be qat'i or dhanni? I mean, if she's still alive, assuming.
Zanith.
Yeah, dhanni, yeah, good. Yeah. So try to use these concepts that we're learning, like use it practically and you'll see a lot of the things that people accept, like they have very weak evidence, very. And I'm not saying dhanni is evidence, weak evidence, but for example, like these atheists, right? So they'll tell you so confidently that, the measurement of this is like this, and in physics we have this theory. And when you actually look into it, like some of those theories are so dhanni, it's like so weak that it's only one or two people like, espousing it. And you're like, how can you accept this over something so clear like the existence of God, right? Which is qat'i. So well, that's what we believe, right? Um, I mean, regardless of belief, it's still qat'i, right? The people choose to accept it or not accept it. So, we should use these types of things, right? Or, for example, things like conspiracy theories, right? I'm not saying, I'm a big believer in conspiracy theories, right? Just so you guys know. To me, anything by default is a conspiracy, by default. Okay? But there are certain conspiracy theories that are just like way too much. Okay? Okay? Like which ones um trying to think of one. Can you guys give me any conspiracy theories that are like really far-fetched? Oh,
Flat Earth.
reptilians. Reptilians. What is it, Kyle? Which one did you say?
Flat Earth.
Yes, yes. I mean, like, come on, you know? And they'll bring all these evidences and stuff like that. I mean, remember the definition of qat'i, that so many people have transmitted this fact that it's impossible for it to be something they sort of collaborated to make a conspiracy, right? So like you have like international, like our GPSs work with assumption of a round Earth, all these scientific instruments, like it's cross-culturally global, right? The scientific community. And then you come along on your YouTube like, oh, I discovered, the Earth is flat, you know? It's just like come on at that point. So tell this to APEC. APEC believes the Earth is flat.
No, AICP, the masjid in front of Saad.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Well, no, they're a different thing. Yeah, they're a different thing. They're saying like how do you calculate the Qibla, right? Like do you
Yeah.
do it just from the flat map or do you take the curvature of the Earth into
Mm.
account? I mean, Allahu Alam, right? Uh, Yeah, but anyway, the other one is like reptilians, right? Like all the elites in the world are actually secretly an alien race of reptiles. Okay, and then they'll take like minute pictures, and I used to watch some of these videos when I was in high school, right? It was just for fun. It wasn't not actually believed it. So you can say that the elites are evil without having to say that they're actually reptiles, right? This is a very, very dhanni type of thing that this like 2% evidence. Okay, so it just doesn't make much sense. So, but other than that, conspiracy theories, like a lot of the things that we thought were conspiracies are turning out to be, like pretty mainstream now. We see Tucker Carlson raising questions about 9/11, about all these things, JFK's assassination, Israel being involved. I mean, we thought these were all conspiracies, but these are turning into fact. So anyway, qat'i and dhanni. So let's just review one last time. For example, the order of ritual washing, okay, in wudu. So that order, it can be debated upon. Okay, it can have some disagreement. Like, should you must follow the order or should you not? This is part of the dhanni debate. And who's allowed to make this debate? Whose opinion is considered? Is it you or mine? No, it's somebody who is a master of the Arabic language and master of the Sharia evidences, the evidences from the Quran and Sunnah. Okay, from the Quran, the verses of the Quran, and the transmissions of the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ. Someone who's mastered both of these things and also legal reasoning. So their opinion would be considered in this debate because they would be the best one to tell you what the language of the Arabs has to say about that particle wow. Okay? So when Allah says when you get up for prayer, or wash your face and your hand, okay? And this and that, right? So some of the scholars they said that the and here, the wow, I mean I shouldn't be translating it anyway. The it means order, and others said it doesn't mean order. Okay? So for us regular folks, what we have to do is we have to pick one idea and follow it. Okay? And this is what we call a taqlid. Taqlid. Taqlid means to follow an expert. That's what it means. Okay, to follow an expert. And we do this in every part of human life. We do this with economics, with medicine, with like everything, right? We follow an expert. But when it comes to religion, everyone, people think that they could just believe whatever they want. In Islamic law, in dhanni matters, we follow experts. In qat'i matters, it doesn't matter what the experts say. This is the difference. In belief, you don't follow anyone. Your belief has to be from yourself. You have to come to the conviction yourself. You don't just follow, oh, my dad told me to believe, so I believe. No, this is not correct. Okay? This is not correct. So you have to have the realization yourself. And you have to have some level of proof of why you believe something. And we're not talking about like, kalam proofs and like, theology with logic and this and that. One of the examples that the scholars give is they say, if you ask a farmer, why are you Muslim? Why do you believe in Allah? And they'll say, well, look at who created the world. How did this get here? So it's a very simple argument, but that counts as proof. Okay? That counts as proof. Or like something happened to you, or you had a change of heart, and you had a realization about the world. All these things count as proof for your belief. It might not count as, admissible proof that, you can shut down an atheist with or something like this. You don't need that, okay? You just need proof for your belief that survives any type of um, difficulty. Okay? Some people have a lot of proof, but as soon as difficulty comes, khalas, it's gone. All the proof is out the head and they don't believe anymore. But other people, they might have a very simple type of proof in their heart for why they believe in Allah and Islam, but regardless of the situations, they're always consistent. They stick to the deen. Okay? Just like the Sahaba, radiallahu anhum. They didn't have philosophical proofs in their mind, but they stuck to the deen and they truly believed in it. And obviously they also saw the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ, right? So that's another thing in there. Okay. And another example of a dhanni thing is the idda period. Okay, so idda is basically when a woman is divorced, how long does she have to wait before she can remarry? Okay, so in actual, like in practical, like practically speaking, the different schools, like you only have like couple days difference. Like it's not that big of a difference, but the difference comes because why? The Quran says that the woman has to wait ثلاثة قروء. Okay, three qurus. The word quru. So now the word quru from the evidences can mean either three periods of where she's pure from menstruation or three periods of menstruation. It can mean both. Okay? So Imam Shafi'i chose one and Imam Abu Hanifa chose one of the other meanings. Okay, but practically speaking, it doesn't, it leads to like some small difference of days. Okay? So this is the difference between dhanni and qat'i. And then dhanni can be a meter. It can be from 0% all the way to 99%. So, quick quiz for you guys. When I say a Sahih Bukhari, the famous book on the prophetic traditions, that it is the most authentic book after the Quran in terms of authenticity. What do I mean by it? Do I mean it's qat'i? Remember, we said that the text of the Quran is qat'i, right? So what do I mean by that? So it's a collection of prophetic traditions, okay, that are very, very, very strong, very accurate. And it's the most authentic book in Islamic history after the Quran. So what do you think I mean by authentic here?
Just the preservation of the text.
Yeah, preservation and also the meaning of it too, right? The meaning's in there. But do I mean it's qat'i or do I mean it's dhanni?
Still dhanni, right?
It's still dhanni, right? It's 99% dhanni.
Mhm.
Okay, it's 99%. But that doesn't matter. You still have to accept it, right? You should accept it. Just like for example, you accept who your father is, who your mother is. Like there's circumstantial evidence that makes it very clear that okay, like she's my mother, she's my father, right? So Sister Deborah, like okay, you passed out before you gave birth, but then why were you in the hospital to begin with? Obviously, obviously to give birth, right? So there's circumstantial evidence, you were there, you're giving birth, you passed out. Okay, now here's a baby. Obviously, like one, two, three, this is your kid, right? Even though it's not qat'i, you didn't see it completely with your eyes, right? I mean, it would be silly to dispute it, right?
Especially seeing that he looks so much like me now.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah. So the same thing with with some of the mutawatir, right? We call it mass transmission, right? For example, like how do we know that like for example, when you do this for dua, right? When you raise your hands for dua, like we don't have a specific hadith where the Prophet ﷺ orders us to raise our hands for dua. But so many Sahabas have seen the Prophet ﷺ do this. Okay? And we have many, 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 many hadiths, okay, where the focus of the hadith isn't him raising his hands, but the Sahaba describes, oh, he raised his hands to the sky for dua. Okay, just as a side note. Okay? So we have this information from many sources. So now you come along and say, oh, raising your hands for dua, you shouldn't do this. It's bid'ah. I mean, you can't say this, right? It's very strong that the Prophet ﷺ did this. Okay? So this is an example of something that dhanni that you have to accept. Or for example, some of the descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay? For example, the way that he for example, like he would turn his completely his whole body to face you when he's talking to you. Okay? To give you that attention. Or like the way that his face was structured or his shoulders. Okay? We have so many hadiths from different people, different sahabis, young, old, everyone sort of remembering different parts of it, but all of them being consistent about that description. So in that sense, that's dhanni, but it's like 90% of certainty. Like if 10, 20, 30 people meet you and and notice that, for example, there is a mark on your face right here. Okay? Maybe some people might say it's on the left side, some people might say it's on the right side, maybe they forgot. Okay? Some people might say it's the mark on your face is really long, some people might say it's short, but what's certain? Like in dhanni wise, what's a very good argument? What do we know for a fact? Right? There's 20 people, they all met me, okay? And some say that he had a mark on his face on the right side. Other people say he had a mark on his face on the left side. Other people say the mark is long, other people say the mark is short. Okay, the details of the mark we don't know. Okay? But what's certain?
That there's a mark on your face.
That there's a mark on the face, exactly, right? So many of the descriptions of the process some are like this, right? There might be like slight differences here and there, but for sure, he was like this. Okay? Because people are, again, this what makes the hadith tradition so powerful, because this is all personal testimony. Okay? And this is why all of the ideas that these traditions about the Prophet some were made up later. I mean, it's really like very impractical, okay? Because if you read the hadith, they're all like personal testimonies, okay? Which is why there's so much differences among the hadith. It's not like the Prophet was sitting there telling them, write this down about me and so on, right? Which is what a lot of rulers tend to do. Okay, so qati and dhanni, we cleared it, okay? And then we're going to talk about, when we talk about Aqid Tahawi, we're going to discuss what is qati, what is dhanni. We'll point that out. Okay, so now let's come to the famous hadith on the 73 sects. Okay, who knows this hadith? Raise your hand. You guys ever heard this hadith? Anyone? No one heard this hadith. Okay. So the Prophet says it was narrated from Anas ibn Malik radiallahu an. Anas ibn Malik used to be the servant of the Prophet. He was employed in a service from 10 years old. His mother came and he said basically he'll be a servant in your house, right? And make dua for him and let him learn from you. So Anas ibn Malik, he lived a very long life. The Prophet ﷺ prayed that he would get barakah in his wealth, in his children, and in his life. Okay, so he lived a very long life, and he became very wealthy. Um, and Abu Hanifa rahimahullah is actually met Anas ibn Malik, some say. So it's narrated from Anas ibn Malik that the Prophet ﷺ said, the children of Israel split into 71 sects, groups, different groups. And my nation will split into 72. all of which will be in hell apart from one, which is the main congregation. Okay? So this is a very famous hadith because there's a group of Muslims today that use this hadith to basically say that our sect, our group is the saved group, and everybody else is going to the hellfire. Okay? And Ahl Sunnah, which is, the mainstream Islamic um, group, the orthodoxy, we also use this hadith as well to say that, okay, look, the Sunnis are the correct group, and those that are not are the group that is wrong. Okay, so we have to understand this hadith. And the main thing we have to understand from this hadith is who are Ahl Sunnah? What are their characteristics? We already said some of their characteristics. We said that they have this concept called qat'in dhanni, things that are primary, usul, things that are related to belief, you can't disagree on, and then things that are dhanni, related to Islamic law, that things are debated. Okay, we follow certain sources, and we'll get to that, inshallah. So, but we want to know from the hadith what the feature of this Sunni group is. Okay, how does the Prophet describe them? Now, there are several versions of this hadith, almost 14 versions. Okay, all of them mention the same wording. Oh, I actually have them in here. Yeah. So all of them actually mention similar wording. So, for example, here's another one from the companion Abdullah bin Umar, where the Prophet, when he asks him, who is the safe sect? And so the Prophet, what does he reply? Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi. So, what I am upon and my companions are upon. Okay? So, straight away, the Prophet affirming what I am upon, okay, and my companions are upon. So there's a set core of beliefs that we have to be upon. And what your companions are upon, did the companions agree on certain things or disagree? What do you guys think?
Disagree.
Disagree. So there's an acceptable range of disagreement. There's an acceptable barometer. Okay? So there's this much space. And if you're outside the space, now you've gone away from the text of this hadith. You're part of the 73 groups. Okay? So, and remember, the agreement is in usul, is in the roots, the foundations of the deen. The disagreements can only be over law, okay? Or minor points of theology that don't actually affect any belief, okay? So let's go through this chart actually. I prepared this chart. I want you to, like, based on your understanding, I know maybe some of these groups are not, they're new to you. I mean, you probably have never heard them. I want you to guess, is the disagreement here part of usul, part of the foundations of faith, or is it something external, something sort of minor? I want you to guess that, okay? Because, like a lot of Christians will say, like, oh, you guys have so many sects as well, just like the Christians. And when you look into it, actually, not really, not really. Okay, because you can make any type of movement or a group and call it a sect. Okay, but a sect is actually a difference of belief. Okay, it's a difference of belief. Whereas Christians, the Christian sects, they have major differences in belief. Okay, Protestants and Catholics, huge differences in belief. All right. Okay, so let's look at this. So we have Islam. Okay, Islam. And then we have Sunni and Shia. So do you think the difference between Sunnis and Shia are something foundational? What do you guys think? In usul?
Yes.
Um, so there are different types of usul, right? Usul is the core usul that makes you a Muslim. All Muslims share this. If you don't have it, you're outside the fold of Islam. And then there's minor usul, okay, that decides whether you are deviant or not deviant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so which one do you think the Shias differ in? The major usul, do they differ in the major usul?
I think minor.
Minor,
Minor.
good, good, good. But those minor differences are in where? Dhanni, dhanni, dhanni. And what are their differences? Conspiracies. Remember how I said you don't believe in conspiracy theories? The Shia religion is built on a conspiracy theory. Okay? So their dhanni meter is way down here. It's like 1%. Okay? And so this is why they're outside the fold of Sunnism, Sunni creed. Okay? And we can discuss this sometime. I don't want to get into too much detail. This is supposed to be a beginner class, right? So the differences are in the dhanniyat, in the dhanni matters, okay? The with the Shia. Okay, so they still remain Muslim. But there are certain Shias that could go outside the fold of Islam, okay? Because some of them do have very extreme beliefs. And this is not the majority of Shias. Some of them, for example, they'll say like Ali radiallahu anh created the world, and like they'll deify you'll learn how what takes you out of the fold of Islam, but they'll make Ali into an almost a god figure. Okay, and this would actually take you out of the fold of Islam. But most Shias, their disagreements are in dhanni matters. Okay, and serious dhanni matters, not like oh, how should I wash my hands in wudu? No, no, these differences are like very serious dhanni differences. Okay. They don't accept Sahih Bukhari. They don't accept, I mean, a lot of the things. Okay, because why? Because to begin with, they don't accept certain people as companions. Even if they're narrating something authentic, they won't accept it. Okay, whereas the Sunnis will even take an authentic hadith from a Shia or a Khariji, or even some people debate, can we take it from a non-Muslim? Some people debate. I think the if it's a matter of deen, we won't take it, right? Like if a non-Muslim is narrating that the Prophet ﷺ, prayed a certain way, like we won't take it, right? Because how can you trust? How can we trust you that you're not trying to corrupt the deen, right? But if it's like a historical matter, we can, right? So the you see the Sunnis are much more open-minded in that sense. Okay, and then we have uh, let's look at this, right? In under the Shias, we have Imami, and then there's the Jafari Shias and the Ismaili Shias. Okay? Now, when you look at this, these are actually differences in creed among the Shias. Again, in dhanni matters of creed, in their creed, because they believe in these things called imams. Basically, to summarize it, Shiaism is like the Catholic Church. Okay? What does the Catholic Church have? Who is the head of that Catholic Church?
A pope.
The Pope, exactly. For the Shias, it's the Ayatollah. It's the Ayatollah. Okay? Meaning his decisions on religion are final. There's no other debate. So in one sense, it is kind of easy. They don't have all these different schools, but then they have all these different groups. Okay? Because sometimes some Shias won't accept this Ayatollah. This is not the correct Ayatollah. So they'll follow somebody else, and so they'll form a different group. Okay? But basically, the Sharia, the knowledge of the Sharia for them can only be passed through the descendants of the Prophet ﷺ till you get to the Imam and the Ayatollah. Okay? And no one else has a say in this. Okay? And Sunnis, we disagree. We say that the best argument wins. Right? If you have the qualifications for ijtihad, for independent reasoning, you've mastered the Arabic sciences, you've mastered the legal sciences, theology, hadith, all these different things, then bring your argument and we will listen to it. This is the Sunni. Okay? Okay, so now let's get into this. Look at this right here. Hanafi. Okay, Sunni Hanafi. Sunni Shafi. Sunni Maliki. Do you think like these are differences in creed? What do you think? Hanbali, Salafi. What do you guys think?
No.
No, they're not differences in creed, okay? Actually, are there any Shafis in here? Ismail, are you Maliki now? Or are you still Hanafi?
I've been lifelong Hanafi, bro.
Oh, okay, okay. MashaAllah. Good job. I think Kyle is being influenced by some Maliki, so we'll just count him as a Maliki, right? uh, Sister Deborah, do you follow a school of law, or like do you know what that is?
I'm sorry, I'm having problems switching on. Um, I knew you were going to ask that. I did new Muslim class under brother Lavon, who's Maliki.
Oh, okay,
My
mashallah, mashallah.
son and his wife, they're Hanafi. So
Oh,
I
okay.
said, let me do these classes as I'll make my decision as to what's best because I'm trying to figure out what it is. I'm learning.
Yeah, mashallah, mashallah. No, that's good. That's good. You know, most people like they're not consciously one or the other. It's just whatever fiqh book you studied with your sheikh, you know? Or a lot of people, like most Muslims in the US, like from my experience, they're this right here. They're Salafi or Hanbali. Okay? Mostly because look, if I go to a question answer, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
The browser?
No, no, we're seeing the graph, the
Oh,
Muslim
okay.
graph. Yeah.
Let me just share my entire screen. So if I ask a question like how to wash hands in wudu, I think my search oh, here it is, right? So usually for most questions, the first website that pops up is this thing here. Okay? This used to be islamqa.info. And this site is run by a Saudi sheikh, Salih al-Munajjid, may Allah preserve him. So this and most of the rulings in here, they're either along the Hanbali school or the Salafi school. The Salafi school, they have this thing where they compare all of the madhabs and then they give you their own opinion. Okay? But then like that's also madhab too. Okay? That's just the madhab of you, like whoever is whoever is giving the opinion, right? So, but that's most Muslims in the US, like usually when they look for questions online, they'll go to this site, which is very famous, right? So most people aren't consciously anything one way or the other. Um, but it's just good to know like what these schools are, right? Just so you can differentiate. Now here's an important thing, right? Look at this here. Under Hanafis, you have Barelwi and Deobandi. You don't need to know this. Please don't get into it, okay? And then you have Tabligh Jamaat and the Taliban. Now, here's a question. Do these guys have differences in belief? Like how are there so many groups? What do you think the differences are related to?
Is it related to how they act on their beliefs?
Yeah, yeah. Like for example, it's a difference in strategy, let's say, or a
Hmm.
difference in how Islam should be implemented in the public, or how, I don't know, how best should we um improve the piety of the people around us? How should we do da'wah? Like calling people to Islam, okay? Or how should we fight the colonialists? Okay, so here's a good one. Muslim Brotherhood, right here. So you see this? So under Islam, you have Sunni, you have traditionalists, Sufi, revivalists, modernists, and then political activism, Muslim Brotherhood, Jamaat-e-Islami. So clearly, Jamaat-e-Islami, this party, political party, how would they have different core beliefs than a regular Muslim? I mean, do they believe in a third God? Like, do they believe? No, like clearly, the fundamental beliefs are not different. The differences are related to strategy, practical reality. Okay? So this you can't really qualify this as a group of faith. You can qualify it as like a political movement. You can qualify it as a I mean, here's a simple question. Can you pray behind somebody who's part of Jamaat Islami? Can you pray your salah behind them?
Yes.
Yeah. But should you pray behind somebody who is a here's a good one. Ahmadiyya.
No.
No, and Ahmadiyya is not a Muslim, which is, this is why this chart, whoever made this, he doesn't understand any of the groups. Okay? You can even pray behind a Khariji, by the way, but you can't pray behind an Ahmadiyya because they accept a new prophet after the Prophet. So if you accept a new prophet after the Prophet, what difference is this? Is this like a debatable difference? Or do you think this is a core difference that'll take you out of Islam?
That's core.
That's core, exactly. That's core. right? And some of these groups too, they fall outside of the Sunni spectrum. For example, you have this offshoot of the Hanbali school called the Wahhabi. Wahhabi. Now, the Wahhabi should be under the Kharijis, not the Hanbalis. The Khariji is a very early group in Islam. What was their belief? If you did a major sin, you left Islam. Okay? And from this strain of thought, the Khariji person, the one who believes it, they're very quick to let other people leave Islam, to say that you're a non-Muslim, you left Islam. And if you leave Islam, we're going to kill you. Okay? If you become a Muslim and you leave Islam, you deserve death, we're going to kill you. And this is why you see in many places in the Muslim world, like you hear reports about like a mosque being bombed. You know, like, oh, this group, ISIS or Al Qaeda or whoever, they bombed a mosque. And then you think to yourself, I mean, what's the first question you think to yourself?
They're Muslims in the masjid, so why are they bombing Muslims?
Exactly, exactly. Like, how can you bomb a mosque when there are Muslims in there? But you have to understand from the Khariji Wahhabi standpoint, they're not Muslim. They left Islam. Okay? So we can kill them. Okay, so they're fighting the good fight for the sake of pure religion that only, two people in the Middle East know, right? So this is the Wahhabi strain. So they're actually outside the Sunni schools, okay? Even if they have the same fundamental beliefs with us, they believe in one God, they believe in the Prophet ﷺ, but they're not Sunnis because they disagree with, just like the Shia, they disagree with very fundamental dhanni matters. Very fundamental dhanni matters. Okay? So we have to really be able to filter what is the difference that takes you out of Islam and what is the difference that takes you out of Sunnism, which is also very dangerous. Okay? And what is the difference that is in the fold, but it's a difference of strategy. It's a difference, like, for example, the Tabligh Jamaat brothers, the official ideas of the Tabligh Jamaat is that you work on Muslims first. You give dawah to Muslims first, okay? And then you go out and khuruj fi sabilillah. And what this is you disconnect from the world, okay, the materialistic world that we live in. You disconnect, you go on a spiritual retreat for 10, 20, 40 days, and then you come back, your heart is purified, now you can teach other people, right? From the idea of it, is this something like you think is a major difference in Islam?
No.
No, like nobody would disagree with this, right? This is a good thing. Now, they made it a group because like it's an organized effort. That's why. That's the only reason for it, right? So same thing with the Taliban. I mean, the Taliban is a political group. Like how is this a belief thing? It's a political group. They have certain positions that are related to politics and policy, and it's not something like, okay, they're Muslim, cool, but they also have a political context, political and cultural context. So not everything they do is just because of that they're a different group in Islam. Okay. Any questions on this? So let's look at what the Prophet says is his group. Okay. What I am upon and ashabi. In the many versions of this hadith. Okay. The many versions of this hadith, we always find the word al-jama'ah, the group, the majority, the most people. Okay? So who is the saved group? It is the group of the main congregation. The main congregation. And now, do you think the Prophet is talking about individual, regular Muslims in this hadith? Like the main congregation, like for example, Sunnis have 800 million people and Shias have 20 million people. So therefore Sunnis are right. It's not so simple. Because remember, regular Muslims are generally ignorant. Okay? I mean, even today and even in the past, they don't know the religion very well. Okay? So this is the scholars have all agreed that this is talking about the main congregation of scholars. The main congregation of what? The scholars of Islam. So who are the Sunnis? Who are the saved sect? They are the main congregation, the majority of scholars of the Ummah. Whatever they're upon, whatever they've sort of come to a conclusion on, this is the right path. This is the path of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba. Okay? And among this huge group of scholars that we have all around the world, in Morocco, in Syria, in Central Asia, in India, Indonesia, and even in America, right? All of these scholars, they speak a similar language. And all of them, they have what? An acceptable range of differences. Okay? So if you're a Sunni scholar and you go, a proper Sunni scholar, you can have a conversation with a scholar from Morocco. Okay? But if a Shia scholar goes, that scholar, that entire group, they're going to know that you're different. Okay, obviously you can have a conversation with them, no problem. But they're going to know you're different. Why? Because the main majority of Sunni scholars, they have certain ideas that all of us accept. What are these ideas? We believe in the four madhabs. Okay? They're acceptable ways of interpreting the Quran and Sunnah. Hanafis, okay? Shafis, Malikis, Hanbalis. We accept these traditions. We accept that there are acceptable ways to have small minor disagreements in belief. So we have the Ashari school, Maturidi school, and the Athari school. Okay? And then we also accept that there are certain people that are great in our history, but they might have had some problems with their ideas. Okay? But we take the good from them and we leave the bad. What are some examples of this? Do you guys know? We take the good ideas that they brought to us and we try to interpret away the bad ideas or try to have husn dhan or a good what do you like um how would you translate husn dhan? Like a good idea or to read them charitably. Okay? An example of this is the famous Ibn al-Arabi. Okay? They call him Sheikh al-Akbar. So a lot of Sunnis, like 200, 300 years ago, they accepted a lot of his ideas, okay? And they tried their best to interpret it away, some of the problematic ones. And the same thing with Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, a lot of famous scholars in our past, they accepted a lot of his ideas, but then also he had some problematic things. So they tried to interpret it away. So the Sunni idea, the Sunni outlook is always trying to harmonize, include, harmonize, and take the good and leave the bad. Right? Does that make sense to everyone? And this is why our corpus of hadith traditions is huge. It's voluminous because the hadith collectors, they tried to collect prophetic traditions from everyone. Everyone. There's an extreme, I'm telling you. There's a famous narrator of hadith. I forgot his name. Sheikh Akram was talking about it a couple of days ago. He was a very extreme Shia. Okay? So when you entered his house, he had a sword and a shield propped up on the wall. And he said that this sword and shield is so that when the Mahdi comes, I will take the sword and I'll go and I will fight the followers of Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anh. Okay? And he said that Allah created everything, and then he gave full control to Ali radiallahu anh to do whatever he wants in creation. So very problematic beliefs, very problematic. But guess where his hadiths are? Which book narrates some of his hadiths? What do you think? Anyone want to take a guess? Sahih Bukhari. Bukhari includes this hadith. Is this surprising to anyone? Because remember, hadith is a historical academic tradition. It's not just, it's just my group and whatever my group is telling me. So Bukhari looked at this person, his hadiths, he corroborated things, and he realized, okay, this guy never lies about the Prophet. He never lies. He has very problematic beliefs, but his narrators checks out, his narrations check out. So these hadiths are actually very strong. So he includes it. But if you go in Shia books, they'll never ever do this. Ever. They only narrate from their Imams or whoever else. Okay? So the Sunnis are which they're part of the main congregation. So the majority of scholars make up Sunnism. Okay. Now, where am I getting this idea that the Sunnism is a wide path? Islam is a wide path. It tries to include, okay, and not exclude. Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anh, he narrates that the hand of Allah is over the group. The Prophet ﷺ said, Yadullahi al jama'ah. The help of Allah, the hand of Allah, the power of Allah, the assistance of Allah is over the group. Okay, the majority of people. So the Prophet commands us, follow the wide path. Okay? Mahajjatul bayda. As-sawad al-azam. Follow the wide path. For indeed the one who takes his own path will follow it to the fire. Okay? So like what are some reflections you guys have of this hadith? Has anyone seen this hadith before? So one of the main things, right, is that Islam is a very wide path, meaning, especially the correct group, the Sunni group, is there is an acceptable range of differences of opinion. Okay? And the first impulse that we should have is try to include. Okay? Is this person Muslim or not? We try to err on the side of caution and say, yes, he's a Muslim. Unless we have like overwhelming evidence that he's not. Or is this person a Sunni or not? We try to, the first response should be, okay, how can I include him as a Sunni? But if he's saying like spouting nonsense, like, oh, Ali radiallahu anh controls the world and all this other weird stuff, right? We gotta leave him to the side, okay? Leave him for the Shias, okay? So Islam is a wide path. The Prophet said, the hand of Allah is over the group, follow the wide path, for indeed the one who takes his own path will follow it to the fire. There's something very practical about this. You should not follow a tiny group that's by itself. Okay? So, an example of a tiny group that's by itself that no one supported, what's an example of this? And that's also known for killing Muslims.
Daesh or ISIS?
Yeah, right? Which, if you look all over the world, the Muslim scholars, right? Even the ones that weren't associated with a government or something, they all came out and said ISIS is not from us. Okay? So the one who takes his own path will follow it to the fire. So if your path is something that is very lonely and like no one is supporting you, right? Not even in the books. Okay, maybe you're part of a place where there are corrupt scholars and they're with the government or whatever, and they're not doing the right thing. Sure, but you should be able to find support for your ideas in the tradition, in the Islamic tradition. Okay? And the Islamic tradition is 1400 years old. So, and if your ideas don't have support in there, then you're on your own. Okay? You're on your own. Uh, the Prophet also said, my ummah will never gather upon falsehood. Okay? So the ummah as a whole, collectively, they will never gather upon something that is completely false. Okay? So the Prophet said, stick with the group because Allah's hand is with the jama'ah. Yadullahi al jama'ah. So this takes us to a very important conclusion. Okay? The scholars of the ummah are collectively ma'soom. Okay, it is a very strong statement. The scholars of the ummah, okay? Not the scholar at MCGP or Dr. Shadi or Omar Suleiman or Yasir Qadi. We're not talking about individuals, okay? Collectively, the scholars of the ummah, they are ma'soom. They cannot arrive at a faulty conclusion. Now, I'm not making this as a logical argument. I'm saying this is a argument from our tradition, from Sunnism, from these hadiths that we have. Because how is the religion of Islam preserved? How do we preserve it? What are some methods that we preserve Islam? Anyone?
Bismillah, the process of narration and the chain of narration.
The chain of
Where
narrations, yeah, good. What else? What else?
is it the ijma?
Ijma, like yeah, I mean we're talking about ijma, right? But like what are some ways we preserve the beliefs of Islam?
Being connected to a teacher or
Being
sheikh.
connected to a teacher. How about research in the Arabic language, right? So researching the
Mhm.
Arabic language, having dictionaries, um, like debating groups that are wrong, okay? Debating groups that are wrong and writing down the true positions and their arguments and things like this. What we're doing here, like teaching, okay? Mass teaching, having a sanad, all these things. So if and who conducts the preservation of this religion? Like for example, all the stuff that I'm teaching you guys, like where did I get it? Did I like research this and like did I discover this for the first time? What do you think?
Scholars are the ones that
Scholars, yeah, yeah. I'm listening to some scholars and transmitting that to you. That's it. I'm not a scholar myself. So if the scholars of the ummah, okay, if the method of preserving this deen, okay, is the scholars, and Allah said this deen will be preserved. Allah said Allah will preserve the Quran, and preserving the Quran means preserving the deen, the interpretation of the Quran. So if the Quran is to be preserved, if Islam is to be preserved, and the scholars are the ones preserving Islam, then the scholars collectively, they must always be able to correct each other. No matter how far they go off into the wrong direction, there will always be some correction that brings us back to authentic Sunnism. Do you guys understand the argument? Or else Islam can't be preserved. This is why we say the scholars of the Ummah collectively, they're masoom. They're protected from any type of mistakes. How? By divine guidance. Okay? And the Prophet also alluded to this, that every 100 years there will be a person from my ummah that will revive this religion. Every 100 years there will be a person from this ummah that will revive this religion. And what we see, like the history of Islam sometimes in a very, very sensitive time, which is in during the time of the Salaf. You had so many civil wars. This is like maybe 100 years, like 200 years after the death of the Prophet ﷺ. Okay. So you start having all these civil wars. You have like the Persians entering Islam, the people from Egypt, the people like all these the Jewish people were coming in, Christians were coming in, Buddhists were coming in, and they were bringing in so many weird ideas, like all this other stuff. Okay? And there were so many sects and groups. Like you open up like a book like Milal wa Nihal, right? Imam Shahrastani, like pages and pages, all these groups, like this group like that um, God came in the form of like Imam Ali and then took, and then delivered the Quran to the like weird stuff, weird beliefs. Okay, all these different groups at that time, and people are also debating how do we figure out how to practice Islam. All the scholars of law during this time, four figures you know, disconnected from each other. One in Mecca, one in Medina, one in Kufa, okay? One in Baghdad. They just start popping up, okay? Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, okay? Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal. And these people and their students, they codify the religion and the most sensitive time. And then you also have people that um, that do this in Islamic beliefs, like Imam Ashari and Imam Maturidi. They didn't even know that each of them existed, that they weren't aware of each other's existence. And they all came to the same conclusions, right? About Islamic belief. Now, if you're aware of anything about Christian history, just to agree on certain beliefs, Christians all over the world have to gather in what's called a synod, a church council, right? And after these church councils, it would be like a bloodbath where the idea that was a heresy, they would be hunted down and they would be killed and using the power of the Roman government, and then you would have orthodoxy left over. Okay? And this happened several times in Christian history, and still Christians can't agree on anything. In Islam, nobody convened a church council. Nobody. There was no one to convene. It was just chaos. It was, this guy is saying that, you don't have to wash your hands to do wudu. Okay? This guy, this Mu'tazili is saying that, oh, Allah doesn't have a attribute of power and we all create our actions. This guy is saying that we have no free will. This guy's like everyone for themselves. It's just a complete chaos. Okay? In the time of the Salaf. And yet, In that time, all these people from different places, they come together, and all this group, we said, right? This group, the group, it emerges, and with certain consistent beliefs about who the Prophet is, who Allah is, how we should practice Islam. So I say that this is a miracle. What do you guys think? No one was controlling this. Like there was no Abbasid caliph that was assembling all these scholars to come to a conclusion. It just happened naturally, right? So this is why, like this is one of the miracles of Islam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He will preserve this religion, and the religion was preserved. Okay? So so I think that's really cool. Okay. So the final thing so let's yeah. So let's just go over this again really quickly. So the features of Sunnism. We respect all the companions and all of their views. Okay? And we're not even like we're not even scared to say that some companions were wrong. Okay? Even to evaluate their opinions and to evaluate if they're right or wrong. Okay, we're not even scared to do that. Everything has to be an argument in Sunnism. It has to be an argument. You have to come with dalil. You have to come with your argument. Okay? And your association with someone can also be an argument, right? For example, you can say, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh is the most knowledgeable about the Prophet ﷺ. He saw the Prophet ﷺ praying a certain way. Okay? And therefore, I'm taking Abu Bakr radiallahu anh's opinion, and that opinion is right. Do you think it's a good argument? What do you guys think?
You're talking about like us taking the opinions of like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu?
Yeah.
I would say in that situation, that's not good because we as common people don't have enough
No,
knowledge.
that's not what I mean. Let's say you're a scholar. You're a scholar.
Okay,
You're making an argument in fiqh. Not we're not saying common people because we don't have the ability to even understand what is Abu Bakr's opinion or not, right?
yeah,
We don't know those books. Uh, just say a scholar. It would be a good argument, right?
sure,
Because
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Because again, we respect all the companions, but we also look for evidence. Okay? Circumstantial evidence, whatever it is. There's no pope for Sunnis, okay? Which is why there's such a wide variety of some opinions, okay? There's the Hadith tradition, okay? Around this time, when all these liars, the Mu'tazilis, this was a group in early Islam, they tried to forge so many Hadith. They were in control for over 100 years. They tried to forge so many Hadith. And there are all these other groups in Islam. Unfortunately, the Sufis who made up tons of hadith. Okay, and the Sufis, they were Sunni. Their beliefs were proper, but they wanted to what do you call affect the emotions of people, right? Make them more pious, like get them to pray, get them to fast, and like to get them to cry and all this other stuff, and get them to do good deeds. So they would make up hadith, and they say, look, we're not lying against the Prophet, we're lying for him. Okay. What do you guys think about this? Huh? We're lying for the Prophet. We're not lying against him. So they would make up things like if you read this dua, you'll get 60 million rewards. Or if you do this, like if you eat onions, it's not onions, like if you eat um, pumpkin, which is the Prophet's favorite food, you would get this much reward. So they would make these things up. So there's all this lying and like making stuff up, fake news. And subhanAllah, in that period, the same period that I'm talking about, the period of the Salaf, the hadith experts, all these from Uzbekistan, from Egypt, from Syria, from like even parts of China, like all these people are gathering together. What are they doing? They're journalists, right? Independent journalists. They're verifying, critiquing, and no one is safe from critique. No one is safe from critique from the hadith experts, right? And they're trying to get to the bottom of things. So again, you see in Islamic history, problem arises, and then there's a group of people that come and they try to solve it. Okay? And these groups, this group of people that try to solve this problem, they always share similar beliefs. And these are the people we call the Sunnis because they want to get to the bottom of things and get to the correct understanding of the deen. Okay? We adhere to the four madhabs. We adhere to the three schools of Aqidah, of faith. So these are minor differences in Aqidah. And why do you have three schools? Well, here's why, right? Uh, Nobody asked the Prophet ﷺ, are Allah's actions eternal or are they contingent? Now, do you know any Sahaba who asked the Prophet ﷺ this question? Are the actions of Allah, are they eternal or are they contingent? Do you know any hadith?
No.
No. Now, how are you going to answer this question? There's nothing in the Quran that tells you how to answer this question. It's a philosophical question. Now, you as a normal person, me as a normal Muslim, I'm sure, like for some of you, this is the first time you've heard this question. You're like, well, what does that even mean? Correct. Right? It's not a question that, I mean, we're going to learn about it in here, right? But it's not a question that is core Aqidah. Okay? So that's why you have two different schools because a group of Muslim scholars they'll try to answer it a different way. Another group will try to answer it a slightly different way. This is why we have different schools. Okay, for new matters, for new things. This is why we also have different madhabs because there are new questions, new situations coming up, and we need to find a consistent way of following the Sharia according to the Quran and Sunnah. So there are only really four approaches that are valid, and other approaches are tenuous at best. Okay? There's another feature of Sunnism, which is extreme caution in excommunicating other Muslims. Okay? We always remember we try to include and not to exclude. Unless it's very clear without a shadow of a doubt this person left Islam. We don't try to excommunicate other Muslims. And the reason is because this could be a justification for some people to commit acts of violence against them. Okay? And I'm not saying this, Imam Ghazali is saying this, a lot of the great scholars of the Ummah, they reserved extreme caution in saying that other Muslims have left the faith. Okay? Respect for ijma and the scholarly tradition. We respect if a group of scholars, if a lot of scholars, they agree on something. Okay? We respect that conclusion. Okay? Versus somebody who says, that scholar, that companion, they're people and I'm a person. You know, we're all human beings. Our opinions are whatever we feel like. I mean, this is not a Sunni way of thinking. Okay? We respect the opinions of scholars. And then there are other ideas that are part of this book that we'll see. Okay? And if we say if the vast majority of classical scholars got the basics of Islam wrong, and there is a group that say this, there is a group that say, the vast majority of scholars they made a mistake in the way that they understood Tawheed, in the way that they understood the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They made a mistake. You know, we'll read their books, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do everything, but they made a mistake in this area. I'm telling you that if they made a mistake in the basics of Islam, like the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala between Tawheed and Shirk, then that means Islam is not preserved. You guys understand?
Yes.
So, I mean, there is a group, and they're very popular today, unfortunately. We'll get to them. But that idea is very mistaken. Very, very mistaken. Okay? The vast majority of classical scholars did not get the basics of Islam wrong. Okay? You can say, okay, they accepted this hadith is strong, but it's actually weak. They accepted this idea that could have been expressed a better way. Sure, that's fine. You know, we do this all the time. But the basics of Islam, no. We said that the vast majority of classical scholars they did not get the basics of Islam wrong because there have always been revivers that always transmit the same ideas from generation to generation. Okay? Okay, I mean, we already covered this. All right, now the final thing that I want to talk about is okay, we said that Muslims agree on the basics very, very fervently. I mean, there's very clear agreement, right? So the question is, why do Muslims fight so much? This is the question. And Sayyid Nursi rahimahullah, one of the great Ottoman scholars, As I said, World War One veteran, and he was very involved in the formation of the first Turkish state after colonization. And then once he saw like, the secularization that was going to happen, he decided to leave politics completely, right? He said that this movement that's coming with the secularization, with removing the caliph, with being anti-religion, it's gonna just increase in power. So, and there's nothing that I can do politically to stop it. So what does he do? He says that the best way to fight it is to educate people on the ground, to preserve their faith, to preserve their iman. So this is what he ends up doing. And he gets into a lot of trouble from the state. He lives in exile for, I mean, half his life really, um, running from place to place. But anyway, his ideas are very powerful, mashallah. So he tries to answer this question. Why do Muslims fight so much? And why is it that non-believers can work together so well? Okay? So who wants to read anyone want to help me read this part? Anyone want to read?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead. So why do non-believers why can they work together?
Similarly, the material reward they are to receive for their functions in order to maintain a livelihood, as well as the moral reward that consists in the attention they receive from men for the sake of their ambition and pride. This too is established and specified. There is therefore nothing held in common to the degree that it might produce conflict, dissension, and rivalry. However, evil be the path that they tread, they will be able to preserve unity and agreement.
Mm.
Interesting.
So this is something very amazing. Is the first time when I read this, I was just blown away. He said, look, the kuffar, the non-believers, they fought a lot in their history, right? I mean, you look at the history of Europe, it's just bloodshed, bloodshed everywhere, right? And then they come to an agreement. And the agreement is we're going to focus on this world and not the next world. This is the enlightenment, right? We're going to focus on this world and not the next world. You keep your beliefs, whatever your personal beliefs you have, you keep them inside the home. But in the public sphere, we're going to focus on making this world better. We're not going to talk about the next world. No one. What are the forbidden topics in at work and in public? Religion, sports. No, you can talk about sports, right?
Yeah, religion and politics.
And politics.
Religion and politics. Yeah, good. Yeah, religion and politics, right? Forbidden topics. Why? Because we're just going to focus on making this world better. Okay, we're not going to talk about the afterlife, your personal beliefs. So what does Imam Nursi say? He says similarly, the material reward they are to receive for their functions in order to maintain a livelihood, as well as the moral reward in the attention they receive from men, this too is established and specified. This is part of a longer quote, but he's saying that look, in the public sphere, for the non-believers, there's an understanding that all of us are going to work towards one goal, which is material gain. Okay? Material and worldly gain. And if you work with us, we will give you material reward. Okay? And you will have a livelihood. And not just that, this is just material reward. People also want to feel moral. They want to feel that they get attention. They want to feel that they're doing good. So we will also give you a moral reward. Okay? How do we do that? We make you the CEO. We make you a manager. We give you distinctions. This is what Napoleon used to do. Like he invented this idea of distinctions, like all these Medal of Honor, all these things. So Napoleon is genius, really genius. Like he made this up, and as his soldiers would like fight to the death, like in a 10 times more intensity to, get this status. Okay. So the legion, to become part of the first legion and the 14th legion, whatever it is, right? So the non-believers, they figured out how to get people unified to achieve material success, and said, look, if you're united with us, we're going to give you material reward, and we're going to give you recognition. Okay? So let me ask you this: for all of us here, I mean, isn't this most of us, like, this is how we think, right? Isn't it? I mean, if we have I mean, why did most of our parents move to this country? It's because of that. The situation here is stable. You do your job, you do good job, you get material reward, and you also get recognition. you'll get a manager position, whatever it is, they'll put your picture up, right? So everyone's role is specified. And you do hard work, it'll be recognized. So this is why the non-believers they can work together for the sake of material gain. It's much easier for them. Okay? But why is it so hard for Muslims? Now let's so go ahead, you can read this part.
But as for the people of religion, the scholars and those who follow the path, the duty of each is concerned with all men. Their material reward is not set and specified, and their share in social esteem and acceptance and public attention is not predetermined. Many may be candidates for the same position. Many hands may stretch out for each moral and material reward that is offered. Hence, it is that conflict and rivalry arise. Concord is changed into discord, and agreement into dispute.
Agreement into dispute, right? So it's a really profound understanding, right? Which is that the people of religion, especially of Islam, right? Especially of Islam, because Islam is something that even Muslims, I mean, they sort of put to the side sometimes, right? Only until you need your scholars. For them, all of the hard work that they're putting in, is there any expectation, a guarantee that they're going to get any type of material reward or uh, recognition?
No.
No, there's no guarantee. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite, right? And also, for the non-believer, every person in the cog, in the corporation that you work for, or in the job or whatever, like, you're a welder, you're a developer, you're a nurse, everyone's role is specified. And if you do a good job in that role, you get a reward, material, you get a bonus, whatever it is, right? So everyone, you're just concerned about your own position. You're doing a good job in your position. For the scholar of religion, for the people, the leaders of the Muslim movements, their concern is for all of humanity. I mean, this is not only is it vague, but it's also 10 times harder. Yes? And so because of this, and combined with the fact that their material and moral reward is not specified in this world, they work for the hereafter, right? They're working for the hereafter, and there's not much reward, like immediate reward in trying to change the beliefs of people in reforming society. Many reformers, they get killed, right? Even in this country, right? Even in this country, many reformers, they're not given attention. It's only after their death people erect monuments for them and this and that, right? So because of that, there's going to be conflict among each other, right? Because things aren't specific, things aren't set, okay? And the ego gets in the way, right? Because, for example, imagine you worked at an organization or you studied for a long time and you put a lot of effort into a Islamic movement, trying to get people to become more religious and open schools and this and that, right? And then somebody comes along, a younger person who's smarter than you, okay? And he has a much better way of organizing people. He has a much better curriculum in opening Islamic schools, whatever it may be. He's much better books. Now, he's doing it in 5 years, whereas it took you 30 years to do. So how would you feel as a person? Even if you're a scholar, how would you feel?
Yeah, you might feel the world is not fair, or you might even feel jealousy.
You might feel jealous, yeah. Yeah, you might feel threatened, you might feel jealous because let's say you work for 30 years, but yeah, it's not a lot of recognition. Okay, yeah, there's hundreds of people coming through your schools or whatever it may be that you achieved in that time, but because of the humility that Islam tells us to maintain, you're not going to be, people aren't going to put your face on a wall, or giving you a bonus, right? In fact, they're expecting you to sacrifice even more, right? Give more for the sake of Allah. And then you have this other guy. He's, wealthy, he's smart. So it becomes very easy then to have conflict. And this is not something it's because Muslims are weak. No, you can see how difficult it is, right? To be sincere. So what is the solution? What's the solution? Imam Nursi says the solution is ikhlas, sincerity. Sincerity. That you have to be open to the idea that these things will affect you. Ego, jealousy, the rewards not being set, right? If you work for the sake of Islam, right, you try to convince other people to become Muslim or try to give dawah to other Muslims, these will lead to certain conflicts. You have to be aware of this reality, and your ego will get in the way. So Imam Nursi says in the treatise, and I'll share the treatise with you guys. You can read it in your own time. That sincerity and brotherhood are the two solutions to this problem, right? Sincerity and brotherhood. In the world of the non-believers, brotherhood is replaced by material gain. Brotherhood, ukhuwa, is replaced by material gain. What can I gain from you? If
Mm.
I am friends with you, I'm going to get a promotion. If
Right.
I'm friends with you, I'm going to gain in status. Okay? But in the world of the believers, there has to be something called ukhuwa, brotherhood, which is pure love for your brother and, trying to do good for your brother for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? And when you have this brotherhood and when you have sincerity in that brotherhood, then things become good for everyone, even if you disagree. Even if you disagree, like for example, I don't disagree with my Salafi brothers. I mean, I do disagree with my Salafi brothers, but look, they have their own masjid, they're teaching their books or whatever. Good for them, right? If we're doing but any time that we need to become united, we need to work together as Muslims, right? So inshallah, it's 12:21 actually right now, but I'm glad we got through this lecture. So next week we can start the complicated stuff, the proofs for Allah's oneness, the understanding of Tawheed, okay,
Mhm.
and these other important topics, inshallah. So,
Mm.
any questions so far? We have about 9 minutes. Any reflections on this idea by Said Nursi? And he's reflecting on his experience working in the Turkish the movements, right? Post World War One. So, this is straight from his experience. Any comments?
I definitely didn't look at it this way before,
Mhm.
where one, like, one thing is replaced by the other, and it's to appease, the people and keep them in line and give them something to look for, even though they're not looking at the afterlife in any way.
Yep,
So very
exactly.
interesting for sure.
Yeah. When it's bread and circus, it's easy to be united. Like if all of us want food, like if all of us are hungry, right? And we want food, does it matter what your religion is?
No.
It doesn't. Like we're gonna work in the best way possible to get that food. And during that period in European history, that's what it was like. I mean, you just read some of those things and it's just really depressing. Like the suffering uh, caught on by, religious conflict, political conflict, all this other type of stuff. The Europeans they were experts at killing each other, right? If there's one civilization that are experts at violence, it's the Europeans,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
They're absolute experts at violence. This is why they were able to colonize the world, right? And that expertise came from hundreds of years of suffering, right? And then they finally decided, actually, you know what? Forget all this faith stuff. Let's just work together to colonize the rest of the world,
Yeah.
right? So, and so you have to keep that in mind when, Europeans or someone with a influenced by the West, and I'm influenced by the West too. It's not like I'm uh, um, innocent from that. We have to keep that in mind when we think we're superior or this or that, right?
Mm. Yeah.
It's the Western world that invented the atomic bomb, right? I mean, Muslims didn't even think about that. No Muslim, you could never get a Muslim to think about it. And there are some Muslim brothers that say, actually, that's why the Muslims lost. Why didn't you guys think about it? Right? But think about it. If you're a civilization that values life, right? That wants harmony in society, like would you think about an atomic bomb?
No, no.
Not really, right? Now, you could say that makes us weak, but like I guess, right? But then it's better that we didn't think about it, right? Then, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. So Allah Alam.
Yeah.
It's a difficult thing to answer. So yeah. So any questions? Anyone else? Ismail, you want to add anything? I know you always have something nice to add.
Alhamdulillah, I'm just thinking right now.
Anyone else? Sister Deborah, Faizan, Brother Kyle, Brother Hassan, Bakhtir.
Salaam, I just wanted to mention one thing
Sister Arshad.
that I sort of got out of today was when you were talking about the hadith of the 73 sects, just clarifying that it meant the main congregation of the scholars of Ummah.
Yes, yes. Yep.
You know, I think I was not like fully aware that that's what it was. I always thought, okay, it's just the Ummah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and usually, the main congregation of scholars of the Ummah, like very, like sort of accurately represents the Ummah as well, right? But it's just that if you say it's just individual members of the Ummah, then you're saying that, you know, like most regular Muslims don't, like sometimes they'll have incorrect beliefs here and there, right? So, I mean, that wouldn't really fit the meaning of this hadith. And for example, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Ma ana alayhi wa ashabi," like what I'm upon and what my companions are upon. And for most of us, we know like very generally what the Prophet ﷺ is upon and what the companions are upon. But the ones who know this best are the scholars because they're the ones who always study this stuff, right? So many of the scholars, when talking about this hadith, they said that the main congregation refers to the majority of the scholars of the ummah. Okay, and they give us the parameters of acceptable belief, like the acceptable range of differences. All right. Okay. Was this too complicated for you guys? I feel like I wanted to start with this because one of the big questions that a lot of Muslims have is like, why are there so many groups? Why are there so much differences? And I just wanted to get that out of the way. Or else, like for the rest of the class, we'll be taking questions like, oh, I learned it this way from this group, and I learned it this way from this group. It happens all the time in fiqh class, right? So I think this is like a very important prerequisite to any Aqidah class. Okay, so with that, we'll finish up. Alhamdulillah, we got through it, and I'll see you guys next time.
Inshallah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Listen.
Salam.